Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of the Sales High Five Show, the show where we bring 5 actionable tips to you, the viewers, and share what you can do to improve sales performance immediately within your organization. My name is Nick Kane, one of the managing partners at Janik Performance Group. For those of you that don't know, Janik is a global award-winning sales performance company. We provide sales training, sales consulting, and talent management services that help organizations improve sales performance and win more often. I'll be your host for today's episode of the Sales High Five Show. And on the show today, we're going to tackle a really interesting, really fun topic for sales leaders around what are the most important KPIs to measure. What are the top 5 KPIs you should be considering on your team today to show improved performance over time and make sure that you're hitting the mark consistently? So before we jump into the topic today, I first want to talk about how we define what a KPI is. So a KPI stands for a key performance indicator. This is something that an organization should be tracking consistently to identify what needs to be improved in terms of performance within an organization. Why are KPIs important to measure? Well, they're going to help provide a roadmap. They're going to help provide leaders with a direction on things that are going on within the organization that are far less subjective. And they're going to help you identify areas of opportunity within an organization. What type of KPIs are there? Let's talk about that for a moment. Typically, it's going to boil down to a few different types. Either a strategic type of KPI, which focuses on things that are more around the bigger picture, revenue and some other big picture items that are more strategic in nature that should be measured. KPIs are also typically could be more operational, right? Very specific, very nuts and bolts in terms of things that are going on within the sales organization. And then certainly, even within those, there are leading indicators and lagging indicators, and there are things that contribute input towards your desired outcomes. And then certainly the outcomes are more of the lagging indicators that organizations are measuring pretty consistently as well. So on the show today, we're going to break down 5 different types of KPIs, what a sales leader should be using to track performance over time. And we're going to talk about the importance of each of those KPIs within your organization. Sound exciting? All right, let's get started. Great, so the first KPI I want to talk about on today's episode, which is total revenue within the sales organization, right? Revenue is certainly the mothership when it comes to key performance indicators or KPIs. It's definitely going to be an indicator on whether or not sales goals are being met more broadly, whether they are being achieved, and certainly is going to help an organization make business decisions around a variety of topics. Things like budgets, level of investment, number of salespeople within an organization. Understanding the total revenue allows us to make more educated decisions on a variety of sales-related topics and operational topics. Revenue can be broken down in a few different ways. Certainly the total revenue, but it could be broken down to revenue by rep, revenue by territory, revenue by product, new customer revenue versus existing customer revenue. There's a variety of ways to break down revenue in things that might be meaningful to you as a leader of a sales organization. So just think about the way in which you want to measure revenue beyond just the total. And certainly this is a very important KPI that should be tracked very closely. So certainly revenue is important, as we just mentioned. The next KPI that I want to talk about today is also important, and that's sales velocity. Right? This is something that is tracked closely by sophisticated sales organizations to really understand what are the sales cycle lengths within an organization. How long is it taking for a deal to close and move through the pipeline? Right? How long are each of the stages taking? Right? These are key areas that you should be tracking because sales velocity in a variety of stages within a sales process is going to help you determine where the areas of opportunity are within your sales process. If deals are getting stalled or delayed consistently in some areas, that clearly is an indicator that you should be looking at that area of the sales process for improvement long term. So think about the velocity, think about how long it's taking for deals to close from when they enter the pipeline, and perhaps even measure velocity of cross-sell rates, upsell rates. You could look at velocity of existing accounts and additional revenue by existing accounts, right? Sales velocity is certainly a metric that all sales leaders should be tracking closely. Great. So we talked about revenue, we talked about sales velocity. The next key performance indicator I want to talk about on today's episode is conversion rates. And this one is certainly near and dear to my heart, right? Because conversion rates tend to blur the lines between marketing and sales and draw greater alignment between those two very important departments within an organization. There are a variety of conversion rates that an organization should be measuring. So I keep that point high level, but some of the more common conversion rates that organizations are measuring today include lead conversion rate. So when a new lead is generated for marketing, how quickly is that lead being converted into an opportunity? Opportunity conversion rate from opportunity to deal closed. How quickly an organization is converting those opportunities within those stages is also something to consider as well. Conversion rate from existing account to additional business within that account as well. So there are a variety of conversion rate that an organization should be measuring. The other point that I'll mention around conversion rate is it's important that an organization understand the benchmarks that exist for conversion rates within their organization, because these can be across the board. They could be much higher in certain industries, much lower in others. So it's really important that you as a sales leader understand what benchmark should be established and consistently measure conversion rate against those proven benchmarks so you can measure the success of conversion throughout the sales process. The next KPI I want to talk about is average deal size. Right, this is something that all sales leaders should be tracking closely because there are several things that this metric tells you about your sales team. You really want to make sure you're understanding what the average revenue is per deal, because that's going to tell you how effective your sellers are at selling value, at understanding customer needs deeply, at understanding the different products and services that you offer that complement other products and services, things that cross-sell and upsell effectively. And that's also going to help show the salespeople that tend to add additional products and services consistently. So it's really important to have your eye on what your average deal size is, and there are ways to increase that average deal size over time. The more effective you can be at increasing the average deal size, certainly the more revenue you're generating, but that's going to help you hit your overall revenue targets and help your salespeople hit their quotas more easily and more consistently. So the last key performance indicator I want to talk about on today's episode is measuring the cost of sales, otherwise termed as selling expenses. It's really important that the salespeople within your organization understand what typical cost of sale look like, how much of that cost contributes towards developing those sales as an outcome, because that's going to help you as a sales leader understand profitability of deals. That may impact the way you structure commission plans, the percentages of which commissions are paid at. So it's really important that you understand profitability, and what drives profitability as a top line number are cost of sale when it comes to what it takes to generate that sale as a cost, right? So take a look at your cost of sale consistently and make sure that you're tracking that closely so you understand top line profitability of the deals that your team is closing. So that wraps up our top 5 KPIs on today's episode. But I'm going to do something a little unique on this episode of the Sales High Five Show. I'm going to give you guys a bonus tip that I think is really important to measure as a sales leader when it comes to KPIs. Most of the KPIs that we've talked about on the episode today really are more lagging indicators. They're more outcome-based, which organizations tend to focus on mostly and certainly are very important. But I think it's really important that you're also considering leading indicators, the activities that contribute towards those outcomes that we talked about earlier on the episode today. So activity metrics typically include things like number of calls made, number of emails sent, number of connection requests obtained on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. Think about the activities that your sales professionals should be engaging in consistently. If you look at metrics that are down on some of the areas that we talked about earlier, in many cases, it's going to be because the activity metrics are down or are not going to be at the level that are benchmarked by your organization. So before you start to investigate why lagging indicators are not where they need to be, it's really important that you consider where your leading indicators need to be and where those activity levels are within your sales organization. So don't just focus on those lagging. Look at leading indicators. Look at the certain activity levels that you're looking for from your sellers. The other thing I'll mention too on this topic is many organizations associate leading indicators like number of calls, number of emails with less sophisticated sales organizations. And that's just not the case, right? These are metrics that you should be tracking closely, regardless of who you sell to, the cost of your products, the level of sophistication within your organization. No matter what you're selling, it's really important to understand the activity levels of your sellers and make sure that you're tracking that and holding them accountable consistently, regardless of where they are in terms of performance. Okay, great. So let me recap the KPIs that we covered on today's episode of the Sales High Five Show. The first KPI that we discussed was total revenue within the organization. Make sure you're measuring that consistently. There's a variety of ways to do that, but make sure you're looking at the big picture through the revenue goals that you want to achieve. The next KPI that we talked about was sales velocity, timing around deals, timing around conversion, etc. The third KPI that we talked about on the episode today was conversion rates. Again, a variety of conversion rates that you could be measuring, but make sure you're tracking that closely and make sure you're tracking it against specific benchmarks that you identify. The fourth KPI that we talked about on the episode today was average revenue per deal. Very important to be aware of that. What kind of revenue are your sales reps bringing in per deal that they're closing? The fifth KPI that we talked about today was measuring your cost of sales so you can understand profitability, you can understand commission rates and how you pay those out in a fair and equitable way. And the last one was a bonus tip that we provided on the episode today, which was around tracking activity and looking at leading indicators that contribute towards the lagging indicators or the outcomes that we talked about on the episode as well. So that wraps it up for our episode of the Sales High Five Show today. Very excited to share those points with you. If you want to learn more about Janik or gain some further insight or gain some thought leadership, you can visit our website at janik.com. We recently published a brand new white paper on sales negotiations with our latest content. Really exciting stuff. Take a look at it on the website. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can find our information on the website. Otherwise, happy selling and wish you a great month.